The fog hung thick over the forest floor, winding like pale ribbons through towering alien trees, with twisted trunks and sprawling, sickly leaves. Light from the setting sun bled through in slashes of orange and violet, casting everything in a dark, ghostly glow. I crept along the roots, my breath shallow as I kept my eyes open for movement. Every rustle sent a chill down my spine, every shadow a reminder of just how isolated and possibly doomed I was on this uncharted planet. I knew this expedition was cursed from the start, I muttered, barely a whisper. My voice seemed to disappear into the gloom, as if swallowed by the forest itself. Then a sound behind me, a low, soft murmur. I spun around, my flashlight trembling, casting a thin line of light over moss-covered stones and shadowy growths. I gripped my tool, a flimsy piece of metal from the broken equipment, and felt its edge dig into my palm, a sharp pain grounding me in the moment. Stay calm, I told myself. Get through the night and then figure out an exit plan. Exit, a voice echoed so close it felt like a breath on my ear. I stumbled back, the flashlight's beam jerking wildly, illuminating a face, long, pale, and eerily calm. Her skin was a shade of silver that glistened under the damp light, smooth yet crisscrossed by faint scars. Her eyes, dark as endless pits, gleamed with something indescribable. A hunger, a curiosity, maybe both. "You," she said, her voice soft, yet somehow filling the air like the rumble of distant thunder. "Why have you come here, outsider?" I swallowed, forcing words out past the dryness in my throat. I'm part of an expedition. We were exploring, cataloguing. I got separated." Her mouth curved into a smile, slow and unsettling. "Exploring," she murmured, the word stretching on her tongue as if it were something foreign, something to be tasted and judged. "You are lost, then?" "Yes," I admitted, tensing. "Look, I don't mean any harm. I just need to find my way back to my ship." I took a cautious step back, careful not to break eye contact. Her gaze tracked me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. "You will not leave," she said simply, a statement as solid as stone. Her tone wasn't threatening, just cold, a declaration of fact. What do you mean?" I managed, my voice almost a whisper. She tilted her head, studying me as if she could peel back my skin with just a glance and see everything inside. "I have seen many of your kind wander here," she said. "Hunters, explorers, scavengers, they all come seeking knowledge, profit, some meaning, but none have seen the truth." "What truth?" I asked, against my better judgment. My heart hammered in my chest, my instinct screaming for me to turn and run, but her words pulled me in, snaring me like a lure. Her smile widened, baring teeth sharper than any human's. The truth of survival, of continuity. She moved closer, her form blending almost seamlessly with the shadows, her movements too fluid, too graceful. "We were once many, my people the Eighth, but time has whittled us down. We are scattered now, like dust. Only the strong survive here, outsider." "And you? You're one of the last?" I asked, my voice barely above a murmur. She nodded slowly, a strange glimmer of sorrow flickering through her gaze, gone almost before I registered it. "Yes, the last perhaps, with the strength to continue. But strength alone is not enough." Her fingers, long and thin, tipped with sharp claws, grazed the side of my face, sending a shock of cold through me. "Your kind, humans, they are resilient, adaptable. You possess something I need." I clenched my jaw, fighting the urge to recoil. What do you need?" She leaned closer, and for the first time I noticed the faint scent around her, like metal and earth, a strange mix that sent a fresh wave of alarm through me. "There is an old ritual among the Ith," she began, her voice softer, almost wistful. "A bond forged in survival and need. Without it, I will fade, just like my kin. You want to bond with me? The words felt absurd coming out, and yet, looking at her, I felt the weight of them like a stone in my chest. Her gaze softened, though her expression remained unreadable. Do not mistake this for desire, outsider, she said coldly. This is necessity. I need you to survive, nothing more. What happens if I refuse? I asked, my voice barely a whisper, almost afraid to know the answer. A glimmer of something cruel flickered in her eyes, and she leaned in close, so close I could feel the cold radiating off her skin. Refusal, she repeated, the word laced with dark amusement. There is no refusal here. You are bound by fate, by chance. And by me, I swallowed hard, the weight of her words pressing down like an iron shackle. My mind raced, desperate to find an escape route, an angle, anything. But why me? I asked, grasping at straws. There must be others. Others? Her laughter echoed through the trees, a hollow, chilling sound. They do not possess what you do. You are a rare find, an outsider with something more. My mouth went dry. More? What do you mean? Your kind, she said, her voice dropping to a low murmur. You carry an essence, a resilience that I need. You are not merely a vessel, you are a key, forged in adaptation and survival. I have searched for one like you for years. Her fingers brushed against my arm, sending a prickling sensation down to my fingertips. I tried to pull away, but her grip was iron. Look, whatever you think I am, I'm just a man, an ordinary human. I can't be what you need. Ordinary? She repeated, her tone turning contemplative. We will see. A strange quiet settled over us, thick and suffocating. I stared at her, feeling a growing sense of helplessness as I tried to piece together some way out of this. Every instinct I had screamed to run, to escape, but her gaze pinned me in place, an invisible chain binding me to this dark, desolate fate. What happens now? I asked, my voice hollow, echoing off the thick trunks around us. She tilted her head, her gaze flickering with that same dark hunger. Now, you accept that your life belongs to me, and that I will take from you what I need. But first, we must prepare. The words sank like stones into my mind, and I knew that from this point forward, escape was not an option. The forest seemed to close in tighter, the shadows growing deeper, and I could feel the weight of her expectation pressing down on me, heavy and inescapable. The silence grew thick as I processed her words. The dark forest loomed around us, an audience to this bizarre, predatory exchange. Her eyes held mine with a fixed, unsettling gaze, as if daring me to resist, to deny the inevitability of her claim. I swallowed hard, the gravity of my situation settling in like a lead weight. What exactly do you mean by prepare? I ventured, barely able to keep the tremor from my voice. She arched a brow, her lips twisting into a faint, sardonic smile. Even now, your heart races. Fear runs through you like blood through a vein. Do not worry, outsider. For now, you are safe. I have no use for your fear, yet. Comforting, I muttered, the sarcasm slipping out before I could stop it. Her gaze sharpened, narrowing on me as her clawed fingers lifted to my chin. She tilted my face toward hers, studying me as though I was some ancient, fragile artifact she had just uncovered. Your defiance is amusing if misplaced, she murmured, but soon you will understand. Come with me willingly, and I may even show you mercy. You want me to follow you just like that? I laughed, a harsh, brittle sound. After telling me you need me for some ritual that I don't understand. You will understand in time, she replied, unfazed. But remember this, human. Whether you come willing or resist, the outcome will be the same. The universe brought you to me, and I am patient. I felt a chill snake through me as her words settled in, layered with an eerie calm. I scanned her face, searching for any trace of compassion, of humanity, anything that might reveal this to be some kind of warped joke, but her expression remained fixed, severe, her dark eyes unwavering. "All right," I said finally, my voice barely above a whisper. "I'll go with you." She smiled, a look that held no warmth, only satisfaction. "Good," she said. "Resistance is wasted energy, and I do not like waste." With a swift, graceful turn, she began to move deeper into the forest, her movements fluid and soundless. I forced myself to follow, each step taken with reluctance, my mind racing. Shadows shifted around us, bending to her presence, and the damp forest floor muffled our steps, creating a surreal quiet that seemed to throb in the stillness. "Where are we going?" I asked, my voice tense, though I was careful not to let it betray the fear coiling inside me. "To a place where the old ways still linger," she replied, casting a glance back over her shoulder. "A place that holds the memories of my kind. It will help you understand your purpose in this." "Do I even have a choice in understanding?" She stopped abruptly, turning to face me. Her eyes gleamed with something close to impatience. "You ask too many questions, outsider." "Maybe that's because I have no idea what's happening," I shot back, surprising myself with the boldness in my voice. "You've taken me, told me I'm part of some ritual, that I'm a key, but you haven't explained why." Her jaw tightened, and for a moment I thought she might lash out. Instead, she took a slow breath, her gaze softening just slightly. "Very well," she said. "I will tell you this much. Long ago, my people formed bonds with creatures like you. It was a symbiosis of sorts, a way to strengthen us, to carry on our legacy. Over time, the bond became ritual, an ancient tradition meant to bind our fates with those of another, to share our essence. Without it, we fade." "You're telling me this is about survival?" I asked, struggling to make sense of her words. "You need me because you can't live without bonding?" "It is not so simple," she replied, her gaze distant. "This bond goes beyond mere survival. It is a way to preserve the memory, the spirit of what we once were. I am the last of my line, and without this connection I will disappear, just as my kin have." "But why me?" "I'm just an ordinary human." She tilted her head, her expression contemplative. "That is the question, isn't it? Perhaps it is fate that brought you here. Perhaps the universe itself wishes for my kind to survive. Or perhaps it is mere chance. Either way, you are here, and I have need of you." I shook my head, trying to process her words. "And if I refuse?" Her lips curved into a small, humorless smile. "Refusal is a luxury you do not possess." Silence fell between us as her words sank in. I stared at her, feeling the weight of inevitability settle like a stone in my chest. There was no escape, no chance of bargaining my way out. Whatever fate she had in store for me, I was trapped, ensnared by forces I couldn't begin to understand. We continued walking, the forest growing darker as the canopy thickened overhead. Strange, luminous plants pulsed with a faint, eerie glow, casting ghostly shadows that danced in the periphery of my vision. I felt as if I were walking through some twisted dreamscape, a place that defied all logic and reason. Finally, we reached a clearing where an ancient structure stood. In the centre, a towering stone altar covered in strange symbols, weathered and worn by time, loomed. The air was thick with a heavy, metallic scent, and a strange energy seemed to pulse from the stones, as if they held a life of their own. "This," she said, gesturing to the altar, "is where the ritual will take place." I took a step back, dread coiling in my gut. What does this ritual involve?" Her eyes gleamed with a dark light as she stepped closer, her gaze locking onto mine. "You will see soon enough. For now, you must wait here. There are preparations to be made." With that, she turned and disappeared into the shadows, leaving me alone in the clearing with only the ominous presence of the altar and the suffocating quiet of the forest. I felt the weight of her absence, a tangible force pressing down on me, filling me with a sense of dread that gnawed at my insides. I ran a hand over the stone, feeling its cold surface beneath my fingertips. The symbols carved into it were strange and unfamiliar, their meaning lost to time. But as I traced the lines, a strange warmth spread through me, a tingling sensation that seemed to seep into my bones. "What am I doing here?" I muttered, pulling my hand back as if burned. The question echoed in the empty clearing, swallowed by the silence that pressed in from all sides. Moments passed, and then I heard her footsteps approaching once more, soft and steady, like the beat of a distant drum. She emerged from the shadows, carrying a small vial filled with a shimmering, iridescent liquid. Her expression was unreadable, her gaze fixed on the altar as she approached. "What's that?" I asked, eyeing the vial with suspicion. "This," she replied, holding it up so the light caught its surface, casting tiny rainbows across her face, "is the essence of my kin. It is all that remains of their memory, their spirit. It is what I seek to pass on through you." I took a step back, the implications of her words settling like a weight in my chest. "And you expect me to drink that?" She nodded, her gaze unwavering. "You must. It is the only way for the bond to take hold, for my kin's memory to live on. If you refuse, then both you and I will fade, lost to time." I stared at the vial, feeling a chill settle over me. This was more than I'd bargained for, more than I could have imagined. But as I looked at her, at the determination in her eyes, I felt a strange, inexplicable pull, a sense that my fate was somehow tied to hers, bound by forces beyond my understanding. Slowly, I reached out, my hand trembling as I took the vial from her. The liquid inside seemed to pulse with a faint light, as if it held a life of its own, waiting to be released. "Drink," she said, her voice a low, commanding whisper, "and know that in doing so, you become part of something ancient, something that transcends life and death." I took a deep breath, steeling myself as I lifted the vial to my lips. The liquid was cool and smooth, sliding down my throat with a strange, otherworldly warmth that spread through my body, filling me with a sensation that was both exhilarating and terrifying. As the last drop disappeared, I felt a surge of energy, a flood of memories not my own, visions of a world long gone, of beings I'd never known. My mind spun, overwhelmed by the onslaught of sensations, of voices whispering in a language I couldn't understand. And then everything went dark. Darkness held me tightly, wrapping my mind in strange, swirling visions. Flashes of alien landscapes, vast cities under alien skies, ancient rituals performed by beings I had never known. All of it felt so real, like a flood of memories pouring into me from a lifetime that wasn't mine. And through it all, her presence was there, a constant whispering voice guiding me through these fragments of her forgotten world. I gasped as I came to, blinking against the cool night air that prickled my skin. I was lying on the forest floor beside the ancient altar, and she was there, watching me with a strange intensity, her gaze unwavering. "You are awake," she said softly, her voice laced with satisfaction. "The ritual has begun to take hold. The memories, have they started?" "Yes," I muttered, still disoriented, "but they don't make any sense. They're just pieces, images, fragments of something ancient." "Good," she replied, a rare softness in her voice. "In time, they will bind themselves to you, become part of you. You are now the last vessel of my kind's memory, the living repository of everything we once were." I sat up slowly, feeling the weight of her words. So this was it. You needed me to carry these memories, to keep them alive. Her gaze softened, a glimmer of something almost human in her expression. "Yes, but there is one final step, one last bond that must be forged." I looked at her warily, feeling an instinctive dread at the gravity in her tone. "What else do you want from me?" She reached out, brushing her fingers against my cheek. Her touch was surprisingly gentle, and I felt a strange warmth spread through me. "There is one last piece of our legacy, something that cannot be conveyed through memory alone. It must be shared through a union, a binding of spirits." Her voice dropped to a whisper, her gaze dark and intense. "You must become more than a vessel. You must become kin." I flinched, pulling back from her touch. "Kin? You mean—" "Yes." Her gaze held mine, steady and unflinching. "To complete the bond, you must join me in every way. It is the only way for my kind's essence to truly survive, to be reborn." I struggled to process her words, to understand the full weight of what she was asking. "And what happens if I refuse?" Her expression hardened, a hint of sorrow flickering in her eyes. "If you refuse, then my people's legacy will end here with me. I will die, and our memory will fade into oblivion. And you will remain bound to these fragments, haunted by glimpses of a world you cannot understand, tormented by a longing that has no resolution." I looked away, grappling with the choice before me. Part of me wanted to reject her, to flee this dark forest and escape this strange, haunting ordeal. But another part of me felt an inexplicable pull, a strange, almost magnetic connection that bound me to her people, to this ancient legacy that I now carried. What if I do it?" I asked quietly, my voice barely above a whisper. "What happens then?" Her gaze softened, her expression almost tender. "Then you will not be alone. You will carry my kind spirit within you, not as a burden, but as a part of yourself. You will be the last of us, the bridge between worlds, the one who remembers what has been lost." I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of her words settle over me. I was terrified, but something deeper compelled me, a strange sense of purpose that had taken root within me. "Then I'll do it," I said finally, my voice shaking but resolute. "I'll finish this. I'll join you." Her face softened into an expression of relief, a faint, almost vulnerable smile breaking through. Her usual stoic demeanor softened. "Thank you, human. You do not know what this means to me, to my people." She took my hands in hers, her grip firm yet gentle, her dark eyes locking onto mine. I felt a surge of warmth, a connection that seemed to go beyond the physical, reaching into the deepest parts of me, binding us together in a way I couldn't explain. "Close your eyes," she whispered, her voice a soothing murmur. "This will be unlike anything you have ever experienced." I obeyed, letting my eyes drift shut. A strange warmth enveloped me, a sensation that seemed to seep into my very soul, filling me with an indescribable energy. I felt her presence all around me, within me, a melding of minds and spirits that went beyond mere touch, beyond words. Moments passed in a haze of light and warmth, a sensation that felt timeless, transcendent. And then, slowly, I felt the world begin to fade back into focus, the connection between us settling into something calm, steady, an unbreakable bond that now lay within me like a heartbeat. I opened my eyes, meeting her gaze. She looked different somehow, her expression softer, almost human. "It is done," she murmured, a note of awe in her voice. "The bond is complete." I felt a strange, unexpected peace settle over me, as though a part of me had finally found its place, its purpose. "So, this is it?" I asked, feeling a surge of relief, of release. "It's over." "Yes," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "We are bound, our spirits intertwined. My people's memory, their essence, it will live on within you, a part of you." We stood there in silence, the forest around us alive with a newfound energy, a sense of peace that seemed to echo through the trees. I felt as if a great weight had been lifted from me, as if I had been given a purpose, a reason for being here. "Thank you," she said finally, her voice soft, almost reverent. "You have given my people a second chance, a way to live on. You are no longer just a human, you are one of us." A faint smile tugged at my lips. "And what does that make me now?" She looked at me, a glint of mischief in her eyes. "It makes you the last of a kind, the bearer of an ancient legacy, and perhaps one day it will make you a leader, a bridge between worlds." I laughed, the sound echoing through the clearing. "I don't know if I'm ready for that." She smiled, a warm, genuine expression that transformed her face. "You will be, in time." We stood there in silence, the weight of our shared bond settling between us, a quiet, unbreakable connection that would bind us for the rest of our lives. And as I looked into her eyes, I felt a strange, overwhelming sense of peace, of belonging. I had come to this place as an outsider, a stranger. But now I was something more. I was part of a legacy, a bridge between worlds, a vessel of ancient memory. And for the first time, I felt truly, deeply alive.